regular meeting for the year 2015 for the Island Planning Commission to order. It is our custom to start our meetings with an invocation followed by the pledge of the flag. If you'd like to join us, please do so. Mr. Lawrence.
Merciful Father, once again we come before you. We come, dear God, helping us to remember the reason for this season. Help us to reach out for those individuals who are in need. As we look at this island called St. Simon's, we're considering numerous opportunities and numerous steps that we may take, such as incorporation, such as becoming a township, and also a possibility of remaining as we are. I ask, dear God, that as we move forward in an organized manner, that we consider all aspects before making a decision. I also ask that you bless this planning commission. Bless the islanders who have come this evening. These blessings we ask in thy precious and sacred name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank all of y'all for coming tonight. We appreciate you being here. Look forward to hearing from you about the items that we're going to discuss tonight. I'm going to read our procedures for those that haven't been here before. The Planning Commission hears requests for preliminary subdivision plats and site plans. The Planning Commission conducts public hearings on rezoning, certain planning documents, and ordinance amendments. The Planning Commission makes final decisions on preliminary plats and site plans and makes recommendation to the Board of Commissioners on all other items. The planning staff presents the case to the Planning Commission during a staff report. The report evaluates how the proposal conforms to the Glynn County Comprehensive Plan, zoning ordinance, and other applicable regulations. The applicant shall have the opportunity to present their request to the Planning Commission. It is responsibility of the applicant to make a presentation on the request and to address any conditions or factual finding with which they do not agree. Citizens desiring to speak in favor of and opposition to the request may then address the Planning Commission. Group should elect a spokesperson who may ask the group to stand to be recognized. The chairman will terminate testimony if it becomes repetitive. The chairman will terminate a speaker's time if the speaker begins personal attacks. The applicant may then provide a rebuttal to any testimony. The chair will ensure that each side has approximately equal time. Is there any changes to the agenda before I get started on it?
Yes, sir. Staff would like to have you amend item D to include the minutes that were emailed to you today for November 17th.
Thank you. Any others?
Well, we'll get into the ones that staff wants to defer.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is approval of the October 13th and the October 20th and the November 17th minutes. So first we'll go with October 13th minutes. Anybody have any changes to those minutes from October 13th? Seeing none, looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move they be approved.
Motion to approve October 13th minutes. Is there a second? Second. Got a second. All those in favor signify with a raise of hands. Unanimous. October the 20th. Any comments or changes to October 20th minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I made a minor wording change, which I gave to Ms. Loving and discussed with Ms. So it's not important enough to, I don't think.
Okay. Minor change? Okay. Any other comments? Looking for a motion to approve the October 20th minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 20th minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the October 20th minutes. All those in favor signify with a raise of hands. One abstention because you were absent. The minutes that we received for November 17th. Any comments from changes to the November 17th minutes? Yes, ma'am.
Chairman, I don't have any changes to the comments. However, what I do have is during those minutes, I requested that I be told what is the duties of this Island Planning Commission, and I've asked for that on 2 occasions. And if I am not bringing this up at the appropriate time, let me know. However, I have been given the ordinance for the creation of the Island Planning Commission, and I would like either you or Mr. Hanley to correct me or to inform me if I'm wrong. And I don't want to take up a whole lot of time if I know that we have a lot to do tonight. However, I cannot proceed without some clarification. And according to what I have here, it states that the Island Planning Commission is to protect established neighborhoods from incompatible commercial uses and inappropriate residential densities, to preserve significant historical structures and archaeological sites, to protect existing scenic or recreational value, to allocate land areas for commercial development, and support services to accommodate an amount and rate of development in appropriate locations consistent with the ability of Glynn County to provide necessary public facilities and services to. And it goes on. And hold on, before I complete this, it goes on to say that other permissible powers necessary to or convenient for it is to accomplish the purposes of ordinance within its jurisdiction, including the following specific powers: to recommend zoning regulations to the county, to plan, develop, and recommend, and upon approval by the county, implement procedures for comprehensive land use planning and zoning matters, to supervise and coordinate, and it goes on to say about that, to adopt or alter or repeal its own bylaws, it goes on to say about that. And it also goes on to talk about density, that we have the powers to, this ordinance may be amended by time to time, and it goes on to talk about what this commission has the powers to do. And according to what's been happening thus far, it is not in accordance, as far as I am concerned, with this ordinance. And if I'm incorrect, I would like to be corrected. It also says that if any changes are to be made to this ordinance, that the commissioners have to have a public hearing to allow the public to speak about it, and then they have a certain amount of time to make their decisions. So in order for me to proceed properly and within the ordinance of this planning commission, I need to know, as I've stated 2 times previously, if we are adhering to the ordinance in which the county commission has amended several times, but that is on our county website, so that any citizen here can download and challenge. So, I'm not trying to create a problem, but I just want to make sure that we are doing what this commission was empowered to do. And if we're not, and if there's a problem, then I would say that we defer everything to the county commission and let the county commission state whatever they have to state, and then let it come back to us. You understand what I'm saying?
No.
Oh, I thought I did until the last.
Well, here it is, right here.
All right.
Yeah, it's right here.
What are you reading? What are you reading from?
It is Chapter 219, Planning Commission,
Right.
Ordinance of
I got it.
2685, amended 8185, 9/1991, 12/1604.
Yep, you're reading
You know.
2-19 what?
Here it is.
No, I'm trying to look in my book of what you're reading.
219, this is planning.
-3, which
Three was what?
says what? 219-3.
She's in the code of ordinances.
Yeah. So, and then it says that if we change this ordinance,
She's in the code.
and
Oh,
change
code ordinance, so we don't have. Oh,
if it changes it, then that the county commission has to have a public hearing, and then the public has to voice their opinion on it, and then, take it from there. So, I mean, I'm not trying to create a problem, but I've always asked, what is the purpose of this commission? And for what several developers have come before us have said that we have no voice. We just stamp everything and let it go, and I'm just not in agreement with that, and I don't have a problem with that, but all I'm saying to you is that then we need to defer everything to the county commission and let the county commission make a decision on what is what, and so forth and so on.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, what Mrs. Ward's bringing up is important. However, it's as a point of order, we're trying to approve the minutes, and I think what she's asking is important, and we should get her those answers. But the question at the moment is the minutes. I think she's referring to the minutes and action taken of the minutes and for clarification. As I understand it, I don't.
You're absolutely correct. Clarification, because I did ask during the last meeting as to what it is that we are to do, how we're to do it, and what is in the ordinance or what is presented to us to approve. Because what I was told the last meeting is that site plan, as long as it meets the ordinances, we are to approve it. However, I think that it is contrary to what is in the planning commission when this commission was commenced, and it's contrary because it's like, it meets the ordinance, plan it. But this ordinance in which the planning commission was developed, it says that we have a right to talk about density. We have a right to deny something based on density. So I've asked for clarity, and no one has given it to me. So I'm just saying to you tonight, I'm not trying to create a problem. All I'm saying is that if we are to perform our duties contrary to this ordinance, then let me know, and then I can proceed accordingly.
I think what we need to do is talk about this, because I guess the way I read it, we're not doing it contrary to what the ordinance says. I think we're following what it says.
Okay.
And we have a difference of opinion on what that says and what it means. And I think it'd be good to have do that in a work session and talk about what it is that you don't think we're doing and some of us think we are doing.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I may also point out too that in past years we've had training sessions for planning commissioners, especially new planning commissioners, whether they're coming on board. And I guess during the crunch, Mr. Hanley, we were out of funds not to do that. We used to go to Valdosta thing and do that, which was very helpful. And I think it gave everyone some perspective as to exactly what our duties are. I would strongly suggest that come back, that we do that again. And Mrs. Ward's got a great point. It's valid. I do think, however, what the planning commission is given in terms of what they're asked to modify and look at is our zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, and they are from time to time approved and amended, and we just went through an amendment process with several ordinance changes in which public was available, and they did voice their opinions, and things were changed and made. That's the process. I think what we have now is a process that was approved at one point by the public, and it's now the onus is on us to uphold that.
I hear what you're saying, Mr. Urshery. However, what I am saying to you is that the onus was not really on us. The county commissioners told us what they wanted, and we gave something to them, and they came back to us. But all I'm saying is, I just need to know, because it says here that we have a right to deny something based on the community as a whole. So if it's detrimental to the community, we have a right to deny it. So I just need clarification on that. Because if I'm wrong, then let me know. And, and that's what I've been asking for several months. So I'm here tonight to say, well, if I'm voting on something tonight or voting against something, I don't know if I'm doing that if it's in accordance to the ordinance of the Island Planning Commission. That's all I'm asking for, is for clarity. That's all I've ever asked for, is clarity. So I'm asking the chairman or Mr. Hanley and look at this document here that's online, to just clarify it for me.
Does that document fit with what's in our planning? I mean, in our commission here, what says our powers or commissions are? Because it doesn't sound the same.
It's similar because it touches on the comp plans and things like that are not specifically enumerated in under the zoning powers. There are zoning powers in there. There's different ordinances that are mentioned through there, and the density issue is appropriate through the zoning process and through the comp plan process. The issue of the comp plan was that it was done in 2008 when we did not have several members sitting here tonight on that board, and it's due again in 2018. So.
Mr. Hanley, may I ask you a question? It says here, it's to 1911, to plan, develop, and recommend, and upon approval by the county, implement procedures for comprehensive land use planning and zoning matters. So what are you saying to me? Can you explain that to me so we're not involved in that?
You have modified the comp plan by changing the density on this island, as recommended in the comp plan, from 0 to 4 to 0 to 2 units per acre. You also have mentioned, as Mr. Ussery referenced, several zoning changes. There are other numerous zoning changes that were done and sent by both planning commissions to, forward for review that are still pending, that will be coming forward to you at some point.
And in 2010, we did redo the comp plan with many public meetings and rewrite as.
Right.
Okay, and that's maybe fine. However, all I'm saying to my colleagues and Mr. Hanley is that if that is the case, then it needs to be put on the county website so that when the citizens download what the Island Planning Commission is responsible for and what they can and cannot do, they have something that's updated and accurate. And this is where the problems come in. That's all I'm saying.
I will address your concerns with that particular aspect with the county commissioners and the county attorney, because that would be a county commission amendment that would change that document.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve minutes for November 17.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of approving the November 17th minutes signify by raising hands. Unanimous. Postponements or
Staff is requesting that you postpone until the January 19th meeting, or whatever date you determine to be your first meeting in January, DM 3126, which is the Lucas office building.
we have a motion to defer until ZM 3126 until January 19th
Whatever it
meeting.
is, later today you will establish your meeting schedule. So.
We'll make it January 19th, and then if we change that, we'll come back and amend that meeting. Discussion on that? Does the applicant need to tell us anything, or is you okay with all that?
I think he's been notified of this move by staff.
Okay. Any discussion on that deferral? All those in favor signify. Wait a minute, we need a motion. I need a motion.
It's Mr.
I so move that we defer it till the first meeting in January.
I have a motion with Mr. Humphries. Is there a second?
I second it.
Second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify with the raise of hands. Mr. Hanley, I had a request to move up, if we could, PP 3156 Glynn Oaks. They would like, since they did it and it was turned down last month, they would like to move it up. Is there any objection to that, or?
That's purely on your all's motion as to how you reestablish any part of the agenda then.
I've been asked to move that up one.
I have no objection, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a motion to do that?
Why do they want to move it up?
Glynn Oaks.
They have some appointments they'd like to go keep, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, if they were here last time and got delayed.
They got denied.
Denied, yes, sir.
I make a motion to amend the agenda to allow them to come ahead of the next person.
We have a second. Second. Discussion? Those in favor of moving it up one level on the agenda to the first one, signify with the raise of hands. 5 opposed. 5, 2 abstentions. So we move to that one first, sir.
Yes, sir.
Staff? Excuse me. PP 3156 Glynn Oaks. Consider approval of a preliminary plat for a 10-lot subdivision of 2.49 acres. The proposed subdivision is located on St. Simon's Island along Demery Road.
Is that the site plan? Oh, excuse me.
Preliminary plat.
Yes.
Directly across from Thompson Cove, parcel ID 0403571, 1317 Demery LLC, applicant and owner. Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. This is PP 3156, which is the new Glynn Oaks. Sorry. This is PP 3156, which is the Glynn Oaks proposed preliminary plat. You can see it's located on Demery Road, where the green arrow is pointing to the red box right there. And actually, in case anybody has trouble seeing it, right there. The applicant is proposing a 10-lot subdivision of 2.49 acre parcel, and this is R6 zoning, and so the smallest lot would at least be 6,000 square feet, which again is compliant with the R6 zoning requirements. The access will be provided off of a new road, which is to be named Glynn Oaks Lane. This is a picture of the property looking dead on from the intersection right there, looking west. Here's a picture of the property looking to the north. The property is located just off to your left right there. And this is standing on the property looking back east. Again, you can see this is a 10-lot subdivision. The proposed lane will enter off of Demery right here and end in a cul-de-sac. The applicant has performed some analysis based on some of the concerns that were raised by the planning commissioners at the last meeting. Next slide, please. And again, this is the property is serviced by Brunswick Glynn Joint Water and Sewer, and the access would be off of there. The applicant went out on site and wanted to let everyone know that the project does exceed the GDOT line of sight criteria for 30-mile-an-hour zones. And please note the speed limit on Demery at the proposed intersection is 25 and is in compliance with all other standards with Glynn County zoning regs. Per the information provided by the Brunswick Glynn Joint Water and Sewer, there was no evidence of sewer issues in this area. And again, you folks should receive some information to that effect. These are the possible actions: to move to approve, to move to defer, or to move to deny the application. Here are the possible motions, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Comment, just make sure we're all here to understand. It's the same proposal as before.
That is correct, sir.
So and it was denied before for some safety. One that was stated that night was safety regulations,
Safety and drainage.
safety and drainage. So, and we have got letters from the Joint Water and Sewer, and everybody got a copy of that, was able to read it and understand what it said, okay? I just want to get all that out and what everybody was saying. Any questions of staff in the commission?
I do have a question of staff. With this particular subdivision, it does not require a buffer for the adjacent homeowners on Mason, because it backs right up to.
It's R6 to R6. So the two zone, excuse me, it was R6 to R6 because they're the same zoning designation. There's no buffer requirement between those two.
Okay. No requirement. I personally have an issue with that because if they were to go to the left side, there is foliage there from the condos, so that it'd be more amenable to put the road there. Whereas if you go to the right side and you're buttressing the backyards of folk on Basin Lane, and they will have a road right up to their property line.
Carl, put that drawing back up so everybody can see what she's talking about. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I thought the road is identified where it is to line up with the road across the street from Demery.
No,
make
if
that
you
more of
look
a
to the
safer
right
entrance.
and you see those properties to the right, and it you will see it's right up to the property lines on those folk who are on Basin Lane. So there is not any buffer there for those people to. I mean, they have a road right to their property. Right up to their property.
There's going to be a fence along there. I thought there was going to be.
So I need to know. Okay, no.
I've got a question of staff.
Okay, yeah. We'll get some clarification. We'll get some answers from the applicant, Ms. Ward.
Thank you.
We talked about that, I think, at the last meeting, but let's see what they had to say about it. What you like to do is move the road on the other side.
No, I'm not asking for anything to be moved to the other side. Well, all I'm saying is that something needs to be in between the road and these folks' backyard. Who wants a road up to their backyard?
Mr. Hanley, what's the required width of the pavement that would be in that right of way?
This one, it's got 10, and there's going to be somewhere about 20 feet wide.
So it's a 20-foot wide street in the middle of a 40-foot.
And I think what the chairman was alluding to is I think there's a fence involved on that side adjacent to the houses on Basin Lane too. I think they will speak to that.
But if the road were in the middle of the right of way, there's a 10-foot
Yes,
strip
sir.
between the edge.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, between the edge of the right of way and between the edge of the pavement and the property line.
Right.
And maybe a little more because they've got a little 2-foot strip.
Tell me what you're talking about, because I don't see what you're talking about. Right here? Right there, that's
This is the road.
I'm not talking about that.
No. He's drawing you where the road goes. He's
I
the
understand.
road.
Here's the road, isn't it?
No, it's not the whole thing.
The road is narrower than the right of way. It's 2 feet from it.
So what's right here?
That would be just
Right away.
Road would be in the center, which would be 10 feet from the.
Mr. Chairman, I hope you will explain what the sidebar is.
Yeah, I will explain that. What the road in helping Ms. Ward understand what's going on there, the road width, the pavement width, the actual pavement width would be 20 feet, and we'll ask the engineer to speak to this. But the pavement width would be 20 feet. If it's in the middle of the right of way, which is 40 feet, that would mean that there's 10 feet on either side. Of course, the engineer can help us with that. I think there's an additional 2 feet between the edge of the right-of-way and the property line. So theoretically, there could be a minimum of 12 feet between the edge of the pavement and the edge of the property, the adjacent
I am
property.
going to ask staff this because if you look at what's here, it says on Demery Road, it's varying right away. This is just on Demery Road. So if you, whatever this road will be named, and who will say what the right-of-way will be and where the utilities will be, the county's utilities will be, and so forth and so on. So my concern is only that if the road is going to be placed on that right side, that there is a buffer or some vegetation between the backyard of the folk on Basin Lane and this subdivision. In addition to that, let me ask staff this. There's property in the back, and we discussed this the last time, and this said that it may meet 6,000 square feet. May is subjective. Either it does or it does not. So I need to know that these back lots are 6,000, minimum of 6,000 square feet.
Yes, ma'am. They're going to have to meet that minimum requirement of 6,000 square feet. Otherwise, they wouldn't be allowed to be split like this.
I hear what you're saying. They're going to have to be, but the issue is, do they meet it now?
Well, we'll have to get the applicant to answer that. Any other questions of staff? Would the applicant like to make a presentation, please?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Jim Bishop. I represent the applicant. We had Pete Scheinauer, who's the engineer. Pete, would you mind coming up? And Temple Hill with Shoup Surveying, who is the surveyor. Happy to ask them to respond to questions from whoever, the staff or any member of the commission.
Well, maybe first, the last question is the back two lots, which on this drawing say they're 7,190 square feet and 6,313 square feet. Is that what they're going to be?
Yes, they will. My
what's on
name's
the drawing?
Temple Hill with Shoup Surveying, and yes, the lots in the rear will be those.
Well, you can read. Yeah, go read the numbers. I might be reading them wrong, but
Yeah.
they're both over 6,000 square foot. One of them,
All the lots will be over 6,000 square or 6,000 feet or larger. The only one that really is really close is lot number 7.
at 6143, the drawing shows.
Yep.
Okay, the other question was about the road and the right-of-way, and do you plan on the road being in the middle of the right-of-way, or to answer her other questions there?
Hi, I'm Pete Schoenauer with Tidewater Engineering. Typically, the road would be in the center of the right-of-way. I don't see a reason why we wouldn't design it that way in this case. David Hanley already alluded to the fact that the pavement would be 20 feet wide, and with that 2-foot buffer strip or 2-foot strip between the edge of right-of-way and our property line gives us 12 feet from edge of pavement to the property line for the homes on Basin Lane.
You'll commit that the road will be at least in the center and not further to the north, I presume that is?
Yes.
You'll commit to that, all right?
In the straightaway area, this parallel with Basin there. Now, the geometry of the road where the curves are need to meet the subdivision regulations, so I got to make sure I meet that foremost. But along the parallel portion of our proposed right-of-way, we'll put the road in the center.
Is there going to be a fence along that?
We made provisions for a fence. I believe that's the intent right now, that there would be an opaque, probably 6-foot-tall wooden fence in that area. That's why we left that strip there, because we can't legally put a fence on the county right-of-way. That will get dedicated to the county, so we had to leave some room there to actually erect a fence legally.
2 feet, right? 2 feet.
It is 2 feet, right? That strip?
Yes.
2 foot strip.
Will that be a requirement?
Would you commit to that, to the fence?
We'll commit to that.
One issue that I do have is that is Demery Road, and I don't know if folk live there, but the traffic is very heavy. And I just think that to put in 10 lots at that particular, 2.5 acres, it's a bit much in terms of density. And as far as I understand, is that as a commission, we have a right to question the density on this island. And I am going to question you as to why it is necessary to put 10 homes in that particular area where there's only like 2 acres, and then that traffic, because adjacent to you have Basin Lane, then on the other side you have a condo complex, which, and then, although I'm told we cannot discuss this, but that road and it's just very dangerous right there. So if you want to build something there, I think that it's too much density there. It should be lower and, less than 10 lots.
Anybody have any other questions of the applicant? Yes, Ms. Watson?
On the side where the condominiums complex is, right now, those individuals on the second floor, they have balconies back there, excuse me, and they're looking out on a forest, if you will. And now they're going to be looking out, on somebody's roof and into somebody's backyard. Have any plans been discussed about putting some type of bamboo buffer back there so those people are not, to buffer that a bit for them?
We haven't discussed that, no.
You haven't discussed it. But see, there's a privacy issue for both, I think. You have folks that are now looking at a nice stand of trees or scrub or whatever's there, which is a lot of it's scrub, I agree. But now, what are they going to be looking at? I mean, do y'all not consider something like that as neighbors when you develop something?
The site has its limitations due to the narrowness of it.
Sure. And so in the back, you didn't consider the residences on both sides of that in your plan?
The resident on both sides, we did consider the residences on the north side of our property.
But not on the south?
I haven't discussed with the owner what his plans for landscaping is at this point. That's going to be up to the individual homeowner. And if it's a problem for the neighbors in Demery Moss, it's going to be a problem for the homeowner. They'll probably want to screen it. But I can't force them to do that.
Any other questions of the applicant?
Yes. Would the applicant consider making lot 7, at least 7 or 8 a park instead of a developed lot? Would they make it a park or a conservation easement?
I'm not able to answer that, perhaps.
Right.
Somebody else could.
See, that's when you don't get the applicant.
My name is Jim Bishop again. We talked about that earlier today. No, ma'am.
We did.
No, ma'am.
And I'm still asking.
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. There's very strange configured lots.
Temple Hill, didn't you have an example of a lot that's very similar that's being used? Would you point that out to?
I can bring this up there to you, but in Butler Muse, there's one that's very, very close to this. Has a very nice home on it. I can bring this up there and show it to you, y'all, if y'all would.
I'd like to see it. Lot 7 was very strange. Lot 8's a little bigger, but Lot 7 is very strange. Is this the same thing as Lot 7?
It's a very similar lot to Lot 7. It's a 25-foot depth there. On ours, we have 40 feet of depth. On this one,
There's
you have
a point here.
So, I mean, you look at the triangle, this one is actually a more difficult lot to build on than this one. From here, if you hold that line and go straight over, you've got a 1,500 square foot building pad right there without even making an L to come up here.
Oh, right up against the back. No backyard, but a little bit of a front yard. Okay.
Anybody else want to?
I'd just like to say, doesn't it seem to me that it's up to the potential buyer whether they want to buy that lot or not? If it's not compatible, then, the developer won't sell it. So I don't see the point.
Well,
If it conforms to the square footage requirements.
I guess for me, the point is we just went through a 6-month moratorium because of density issues. And I have to say, I think developers on the island should give some consideration to not being able to. I know you have a right to develop your property because it's R6, but as a good neighbor too, and as a community, you should consider things like conservation easements. They get credits for that as well. The developer does, and so I just think they ought to consider that. And also, the community, when you have neighbors behind it, You know, you ought to be able to say, yes, we've taken into consideration the neighborhood we're building in. And yes, you know we're taking down all the trees, and these people are going to be looking in our backyards, and we think we might plant some bamboo or something. I mean, it would be nice if you could come in here and just say, I've got 6 lots, I have a right to develop it. To heck with everybody, my neighbors, to heck with them. I don't appreciate that very well after going through a 6-month moratorium that we just went on density issues for this island. That's all I have to say on that subject.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you very much. This is not a public hearing. We'll ask for some comments in a minute. Is there a motion that someone would like to make? And we'll open it for comments.
Just a preliminary plat.
Preliminary plat.
I make the motion we approve the preliminary plat.
It's a
PP 3156. Application.
A second.
We have a motion, a second to approve. Well, now, welcome to hear some comments. Comments should be questions to the commission. This is not a public hearing, therefore we'll just try to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Julian Smith. I live on St. Simon's Island. I have several questions, and the first is, did the Island Planning's Commission take a formal site walk at this property? Simple question. Was there a site walk of any kind? A formal site walk?
No.
Was there an informal site walk? That is, how many members of the commission walked on that property, took a look at it? Several. Thank you. Three members. I have this question for the commission. Given that there are a number of mature oak trees, live oaks, I'm not talking about laurel oaks or water oaks or other trees. There are some beautiful and very interesting trees on the property. Is it your sense that the site plan we see here, the arrangement of lots, has taken into consideration saving any of those trees, or is the plan, to your knowledge, and you can find this out from the applicant, to bulldoze the lot, to clear it, and to make it easy to place houses on these individual lots? So this gets into the question of density. Is the density the developer wishes to have, does it grow out of the likelihood that the lot will be clear cut? Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, let me get the questions first. Does anybody else have any other questions? If this is not a public hearing, we'll answer questions.
Right, Mr. Chairman, I'm Monica Smith, and my question is, at what point was it decided that we could have numbers and random alphabetical letters to identify property owners? None of us know who 1113 LLC is. We do not know whom we are to hold accountable for whatever is going to happen here. Nor do we have any certificate that the people who showed up and said that they were representing 1317 LLC in fact represent anybody. I mean, it's a rule of fiction. How can we deal with 1317 LLC? That's my question. Thank you.
Any other questions? I assume not. We'll come back to our motion, and we'll try to answer those questions. Questions on the trees and how you set up the lots? Just whatever your plans are.
Well, obviously, for marketability, you'd want to save as many trees as you can. So I would assume that when the developer comes in, he's going to save the trees in the lots where he can, and then it would be up to the owners as to which ones would have to come down to build the houses.
Thank you.
I can answer the second. I can answer the one about the who is.
Go right here,
1317.
Ms. Watson.
When you see something like 1317 Demery LLC on the agenda, all you have to do is go to the Secretary of State website and look up the corporation. I did it myself. It's free to anybody who wants to go and look it up, and it's got people's names on it who you can hold accountable. Okay?
Yes, I did that.
Okay.
That's fine.
That person is not here.
Right, they're representatives here.
How do we know that they are really their representatives?
That's okay.
Because they say so.
Okay, commissioners, we have a motion for approval.
I just want to say that I very much agree with Ms. Watson, the fact that I would hope that the developers on St. Simon's Island would hopefully read the public and realize that clear cutting and trying to jam everything they can into the smallest piece of property is not what is the desired growth of St. Simon's Island, and that they would take those kind of considerations in line and try to be good neighbors instead of maximizing greed.
And I think we all agree with that. We have a motion and a second for approval. Any other discussion on the motion? All those, excuse me. I looked, I didn't see anything. Go ahead.
Before we vote on this, I just want to reiterate to my colleagues here that determination of need for the commissions, it says to protect established neighborhoods from incompatible commercial uses and inappropriate residential densities, to preserve significant historical structures and archaeological sites, to protect existing scenic or recreational values, to allocate land areas for commercial development and support services, to accommodate an amount and rate of development in appropriate locations consistent with the ability of Glynn County to provide necessary public facilities and services to, and so forth and so on. So when we vote, I want us to keep that in mind.
Call the question.
Okay, I assume you're ready to vote now? All those in favor of the motion signify with a raise of hands. All those opposed with a show of hands. 5-2, motion carried. Next item on the agenda. The next item is a public hearing. It's a zoning change. ZM 3153, Plumbrook Road. Consider a request to rezone 7 parcels at 2312 and 2314 Demery Road, 115, 117, 128, and 142 Plumbrook Road, and all additional undisclosed addresses on Plumbrook Road from medium residential to R9 one-family residential. Parcels ID 0402260, 0402312, 0402313, 0402314, 0414489, 0414488, 0402258. David Hanley, RLA, ASLA agent for Glynn County Board of Commissioners. Applicant William Dunn, Orrin Douglas, Mary Hicks, Robert Neal, Mary Wilson, Gloucester, and Cecilia Buchan, owners. Buchanan, excuse me. Owners.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Is yours, Carl?
Yes, this is mine. I actually have all of them tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman. This is Plumbrook Road, ZM 3153. My name's Carl Bursa. I'm a planner with the... Can you hear me back there? Okay, let me try that. My name's Carl Bursa. I'm a planner with the planning department here, and I'll be presenting Plumbrook Road. If you look, the parcels outlined in red are the items we'll be presenting tonight, the parcels that are in question. We are proposing to rezone this property from medium residential, that is MR, to R9 single family, one family residential. Next slide, please. This is an entrance to the subject property, pretty much straight on from Demery Road. And you can see there's the area right there. Go right ahead. Next one, please. This is the subject property entrance looking north on Demery. And again, that's with the way that, sorry, with the curb cut right there coming off of Demery. This is to consider this proposal to rezone all of the properties that abut Plumbrook Road from MR medium residential to R9 one family residential. The proposed zoning change specifically would provide a more appropriate density for this minor street. The proposed zoning would also eliminate a multitude of uses, including two-family dwellings, cluster dwellings, golf courses, row houses, and other assorted uses you can see listed on the screen up ahead there. There are currently 7 existing parcels that will be affected by this proposed zoning change. These parcels contain a total of 23 lots of record, according to the county's historic lot line information. That means that on this part, even though there are only 7 parcels for tax purposes, when you look at this in terms of proposed potential developments, there are 23 lots on there. Next slide, please. Plumbrook is designated a minor street. This type of street is recommended to have between up to 250 average daily trips, or ADT yield. So what that means is that we figure that each individual home will have a set number of trips that they're expected to make per day. There should be no more than 250 per day for this type of street. The existing lots as of right now would yield 210 average daily trips. The problem becomes that the undeveloped lots have the potential to yield 270 average daily trips if they were to be developed to their maximum potential use. This would obviously exceed the recommended average daily trip rate. Next slide, please. Because of that, we are proposing this rezoning, which we believe will grant a more appropriate density to this minor street. The maximum units per acre would go from 16 under the medium residential designation down to a possible 4 per acre under R9 one family residential. These are your possible actions to move to recommend to the Board of Approval, recommend approval to the Board of Commissioners, recommend denial to the Board of Commissioners, or move to defer the application if you so choose. Here are your possible motions, and I will be happy to entertain any questions.
Questions of staff?
I do have a question.
Ms. Ward?
All right, so if we rezone those 7 lots, and this clarify this for me, will it affect the other property owners on either side of Plumbrook?
It's every single lot who touches Plumbrook. The lots that were highlighted in red will be affected. No one else anywhere in the vicinity would be. Only those 7 parcels would be affected.
Just the 7?
Those 7, yes, ma'am.
So the others would not be affected by that?
The 7 parcels are every single one that, actually, take a look. Every single parcel highlighted in red here, that's Plumbrook there in the middle. And if it touches Plumbrook anywhere, it's going, the proposal to rezone would be applied to it. Otherwise, everybody who does not touch that, everybody who isn't at one of those 7 parcels, they would not be affected.
Okay.
Right.
So it includes the lots on the right side of Plumbrook?
Yes, sir. Both sides of the street all the way to the end of the marsh.
But they're changing that.
Yeah.
Other questions of staff? Okay, let me a couple comments. That the lots that are currently there are variable sizes, as you've shown.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
That they're not houses on all of them. Some of them are undeveloped. Correct. And what this change would do, medium density allows 2-family, it allows 16 units per acre for condos and things like that. So this is a reduction in density going to R9 lots.
That is correct, sir.
Correct? Okay.
Sounds good to me.
questions of the applicants? Go ahead, excuse me, staff.
I have one question, Steph. Is Plum Brook Road a right-of-way currently?
There's a lot of discussion about that right now.
That's, I feared.
It may or may not be. There is a plat involved with it that has a lot of issues with it because it was done when there wasn't a formal acceptance process, and obviously by the quality of the road that's out there, there hasn't been a whole lot of county action on that road.
Right.
So there is a property owner that owns 21 lots adjacent to that who has a title policy to that road, and that would be resolved, through part of this action.
Is he part of the zoning?
Yes, sir. And he's sitting right in front of me. So he's aware of this.
If this is brought to us, will the right-of-way be improved to be a?
It's going to have to be, because there is no water, there's no sewer, there's really no road down there.
I think a representative of the owner is here, so when we get to, comment, they can speak on it.
Okay, but that's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I guess before we call in, one other question. The owners that are listed, they're all listed on here as part of the applicant, correct? Okay.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. And you are the applicant, I presume, is
Yes,
what
sir.
I read.
And we would
So now would you act as the applicant?
He's the applicant?
That's what it says. Okay, go ahead. That's what it says. I'm just reading what it says.
I thought the owners were,
He's the agent for Glynn County.
I got that.
Yeah. So I'm just, what it reads here.
Douglas and,
I presume we can have all the owners talk also.
Glynn County Board of Commissioners.
Yes, sir. This is part of the what was alluded to earlier. This is one of the reductions that we're recommending as part of addressing density on the island.
Tell us who you are again.
I'm Dave Hanley, Director of Community Development for Glynn County, and yes, I have a string of initials after my name. But yes, we are requesting this. This is part of what was alluded to about controlling density on this one. This one was identified as one of the areas that could benefit from a reduction because of this minor street in there that essentially hasn't been built yet, but has this MR zoning, and it is on a critical point where we have ongoing issues on Demery regarding traffic access on that particular stretch. So we would respectfully request that the Commission recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of this request.
Before we ask you questions, would the other applicants like to say something? Any of the other owners or applicants want to say anything?
Yeah,
sure. Go right ahead up there, please, sir.
May I just ask to inquire, why is Mr. Hanley why are you agent for this and so the owners themselves?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because it's Board of Commissioners action requesting this because of it is a board recommended item to reduce density. It's the same thing as on certain zoning other issues. We will recommend them through the board level. So.
Hi, I'm Patrick Duncan. I'm the owner of the 2314 Demery Road. I'm listed as William Dunn or Duncan. I'm Patrick. So I acquired this tract of land about a year ago. It's my intention to develop single-family lots there, and we are zoned basically condominium. So we're trying to do what's right for what a lot of people have been complaining about on the island, and that is reduce the density. So I wish this hearing had gone first. This meeting could have started out a lot more positive. I've worked with my fellow adjacent landowners and neighbors. We've been very transparent about what we're trying to do down there. And there are a couple, frankly, the concern is the property that is on the east side of Plum Brook. We want to be sure that those tracts are developed in single family as well. And so that's the purpose.
Thank you. Other owners, before we ask questions? Any other owners want to say anything? Okay, questions then of the applicant?
Can I ask Mr. Hanley a question?
She has a question.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask Mr. Hanley a question.
He's
Mr. Hanley, where is he?
He's still applicant.
I'm just over there. Okay, with this particular property, and I'm not dealing with this applicant, but the other owners, if they wanted to, say for instance, because this is probably heirs property, okay, and if they wanted to build a home for different heirs, could they, how could they do that? Would they have to separate the property and adhere to this rezoning, or could they build homes with an, let's say a breezeway to attach the homes on the property? With this rezoning?
If this rezoning is passed tonight, no, it would have to be single family on a single family lot of 9,000. However, there's no utilities down there, so I mean, there's a long way to go before development would occur. I mean, someone would have to run water and sewer down there to develop the property at all. So.
Can I answer your question, Ms. Ward?
Yeah.
Ms. Watson?
I don't have a question, but I do have a praise. I want to thank Mr. Duncan, and I want to thank the rest of the property owners that this is exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about our community here. And I thank you so very much. And I wish you'd gone first as well, because I'm very unhappy when developers come in and they don't take our community into consideration. And it seems like we had the moratorium, and now they just jump, and they're not. They don't live here. They don't care about our community. And I thank you very, very much for caring about our community as much as we do up here. Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? This is a public hearing, and we will open the floor for any comments or questions that anyone that's here would like to make.
May I just make another comment?
Yes, sir.
I just want to acknowledge I've worked with staff and the commission in coming up with our plans, and the staff has been very supportive. And there's been a lot of pressure on the island on us builders and developers. And so it's not been easy to get agreement to downzone. But with the help of Dale Provenzano, we made a lot of progress. I want to thank Dale tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Dale. Whoever can help.
You go here.
He's over there. Okay.
Hi, I'm Bithynia Gibson, and as most of you know, I've been here, I guess, since 1980, trying to preserve my community, which is on Dingley Road. I have been a resident in that area for over 75 years. My parents brought me there as a toddler. And the only time I've been away from Dingley is when I had to go away to school because there was no transportation for me to go to school in Brunswick. So I had to go away to school. Then I had to go away again to college. And then I'd come home in the summers, vacations, and I worked at Fort Knox a year. But dear old Dingley Road was calling me back to Brunswick. So I taught in Brunswick. I taught school 35 years. And I'm happy to say that the applicant happens to be one of my favorite students at Brunswick High. He said I was his favorite teacher. That might have been just to get me on his good side. I don't know. Did you tell the truth, Patrick?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I am happy to say that this is the first time since 1980, the 80s, that someone has tried to put houses on Dingley Road in the area where I live, Jewtown. We had a lawsuit with the help of the community when the shopping center was there. Everything has been trying to put commercial in, and we've been trying to preserve the little bit of Jewtown that's there. So I am happy to see someone decide to put some houses there. There's one thing I'd like to know. We've never been offered sewage, as you might know. We've been asking for sewage for years and years. And finally, we got kind of tired and stopped asking. We even were not offered water. The sewage comes right up to my property, and it stops. It goes across the street, and it goes on down the street. It goes around my house, come behind the house, or down the street. But we have never been offered sewage right there in that area. We've just been recently offered running water, city county water. So I'm sure now that this is going to go on, that some sewage will be available. Because we got tired and stopped asking about, 4 or 5 years ago. So I support this. I live next door to the property. And again, as I said, I'm happy to see that someone is going to put some housing. I tell you one thing, I told him already. When he came to my house, I was shocked to see him. And he's working with us in the community also. I said, please don't put no Berlin Wall up against my side. Don't divide me. So he has promised me that he's not going to put a Berlin Wall. Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Going? We'll close the public hearing side. Applicants have anything else they'd like to say? In rebuttal to any questions or comments?
I hate following Berthania because she's a tough act to follow, but we would request that you all recommend approval to this item to the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of the proposed zoning decision as presented.
I second.
To recommend to the county commissioners for approval?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I read the wrong thing. I recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of zoning application ZM 3153 Plumbrook Road.
And I'll second.
So we got a motion and a second to recommend approval to rezone from MR to R9 one family. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify with a raise of hands. Unanimous. Thank y'all. Next item on the agenda is Next item on the agenda is SP 3124 Aviator Plaza. Consider site plan approval for commercial building located at 1830 Demery Road on St. Simons Island. This property is located approximately 100 feet southeast of the intersection of Demery Road and Terminal Drive. The building will contain wholesale, office, rental, and furniture sales businesses. Partial ID 0402922. Brad Bumbach, agent for Bumbach Development, applicant Glynn County Airport Commission owner.
All right, good evening again, Commissioners. Carl Bursa again, and I'll be presenting Aviator Plaza, SP 3124. Project is located where the large arrow is on Demery Road, right there across. There will be a road that will be connecting it. It will be called Aviator Way. And again, this is to consider site plan approval for this proposed commercial building. It will be approximately 100 feet southeast of the intersection of Demery and Terminal Drive. And Mr. Brumbach is the agent for Brumbach Development, and they'll be handling the project. Next slide, please. This is a look at the proposed area. It is just south of the Rich Building. If you're familiar with that site. And again, there's the Rich Building, and this is the area to the south where the project will be. Next slide.
Could you turn those lights down over there? Over there. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Perfect. All right. This is the proposed. This is the subject property looking to the south. Again, with Demery Road there on your right-hand side. This is the same area looking north. Again, you can see the Rich Building off there to the right-hand side. Right. The site plan is proposing a 14,378 square foot commercial retail office building constructed in a single phase. And again, this is the total site area is going to be 1.82 acres, 1.2 of which will be impervious surface area. There are going to be 71 parking spaces that are required for the proposed uses. 73 have been provided along with all necessary ADA compliant spaces. then you will note that on here there are two entrances on either side of the development. These are required by the Glynn County Fire Department for emergency access. And then, that's everything. Okay, next slide, please. These are architectural elevations. This again is in compliant with all Glynn County code regard to elevation and height. Next slide, please. So again, this is the SP 3125 Aviator Plaza is to consider the. It's 3124. Excuse me. Consider the site plan approval to construct this commercial building that will include wholesale, office, retail, and furniture sale uses. All these proposed commercial uses, as noted in the site plan, are as of right approved uses in the McKinnon Airport Plan development. And you can see that there will be proposed site improvements, including a Type E buffer along the Demery Road area, and then here. And then there will be a modified Type A buffer here along the east side of the property where St. Simon's Mobile Home Park is. Here are your possible actions: to move to approve the site plan as submitted, to move to approve it with conditions, to move to deny, or to move to defer the site plan. Here are your possible motions, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question of staff. Can you clarify something for me, please? With this site plan, is there a proposed restaurant there?
There is not, ma'am.
There is not going to be a restaurant.
There's not a proposed restaurant right now.
Okay, so you said, you said right now.
Specifically, there was not one right now. The applicant does have the option to come before us to request to amend the plan development text right there, but it would actually be the county who would be doing the proposing. But again, that would have to come before you folks and then go up to Board of Commissioners. Right now, the site plan as approved would be strictly for the uses that are in front of you right now.
Let me ask you a question.
Oh, go ahead, please.
When the RFP was submitted and accepted, in the RFP, was there a restaurant in there? And if so, if the airport authority approved it, then how could the airport authority approve something that needed to be, and Mr. Hanley, you may be able to answer this, that needed to be approved by the Planning Commission first?
All right, we don't know what's in the RFP. That's between an applicant and them. What the Airport Commission did was, I believe, accept the proposal. That proposal has to be done in accordance with the current zoning practice. At the time the zoning case was done and brought before this body, there were uses that were in there for this tract, which is part of a bigger tract on the master plan that had additional uses in there, which included a restaurant, which was not recommended by this body and which was not approved by the board.
Right.
So that is the way it would come back through, is if it was applied for and it came back to this one, it would be ultimately the Board of Commissioners that would decide whether or not a restaurant would go back in on this tract along with others in that same tract body. So.
Okay, and also when you look at this and when you're going south on Airport Road, there is not an entrance into that property. So is the county working with the developer to change that island that's there to allow entrance from both directions?
These are the two entrances that are proposed. So,
but that's not.
The island is right there.
Right, yeah.
That's the island.
And then so you can see the north.
That's one.
Yeah, that's and then the south right there. The island terminates before the northernmost entrance, ma'am.
So it's that good for traffic or not? I'm asking your professional opinion. You know.
That would be where you want to put it. And this one's closed.
So
we'll get the applicant
on the other side of the, I'm just looking at their side with the what their hotel is going. Right, and you know about that, so traffic is cool? Yeah?
Actually, the island is going to be reduced by the hotel.
I don't know.
Here's the applicant to answer your question. Any other question of staff? Question of staff? Applicant?
Yes, I'm Brad Brumbach. I'm the developer of this property. We've tried to eliminate any safety issues with the turning in our entrances because we do have a center lane. We've also tried to work with the UGA Don Gardner and provide adequate canopy for future growth on the property. Right now it's a current grass field. So we've allowed for landscaping and larger trees that we can plant, not necessarily larger trees, but trees that will grow to be large trees. We've also got an area in the front of the exit here to your lower screen that we plan to have a F6 Hellcat as a memorial. We're across from the new hotel in FBO, so the reason it's called Aviator Plaza is we'll have a little monument there for that. Right now, we asked for approval for the current site plan for the retail space. We do not have any tenants for restaurant, but I've had interest in that. But right now there is no designed restaurant or any owner that's requested to sign a lease for a restaurant.
Well, I would like to say this. You're saying right now, so that is not a concrete.
No, ma'am, it's not in concrete. I'm trying to leave the options.
I would not want a restaurant there, because if you're asking for rezoning, because you have to take in consideration that there is a residential area adjacent to where we're speaking of, and when it was already denied once, and I'm of the opinion that it should be denied again for a restaurant. And if you want to do what you want to do without the possibility of a restaurant.
I'm not asking for a restaurant at this time. No, ma'am.
You said at this time.
I'm not. I'm asking for this site plan in what I've asked the Airport Commission, everything else, for retail, office, furniture use.
As long as you say there's no restaurant going there.
Just to answer that, before a restaurant can go on that property, it has to come back for rezoning, which we have full authority in rezoning to turn that down.
The RFP that he submitted to the...
Pardon?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the RFP that was submitted to the airport authority, did it have a restaurant in there?
It specifically said restaurant contingent on rezoning. So it was written in there because at the time I did not know that it was denied for restaurant, and we've gone through the process of trying to figure out what's allowed and what's not. This site plan is for what's allowed on this site. We've designed it that way. We've provided for adequate drainage, actually above what's required. We've provided for adequate parking above what's required. So it's not the RFP to the airport, which the airport authority and commission has approved, and highly favorable of this commercial tract. That this road, from what I understand, was designed for a commercial access. That's why they moved Demery to this road. So all I'm asking is for what this property is designed for.
Demery was moved because what we're complaining about on their property.
Any other questions of the applicant?
I admire your landscaping along Demery Road. I wish the whole airport road would be similarly landscaped.
And as a reminder, I developed Airport Plaza, where Kennedy Outfitters, my office, and the brick is located. And when I came in front of you, I told you exactly what I was going to do and did it. So it's the same intent. My intent is to make this road, beautiful and gorgeous. I think the Airport Commission is actually meeting this week to discuss the whole landscape plan along this road, to increase the landscape for the new hotel, the new FBO. This project, CPAC, everybody's in agreement that we want to increase the landscape along this corridor because it's such an important part of St. Simon's, people coming to the beach and everything else.
Okay. Let's make a motion.
No other questions of the applicant? Oh, excuse me.
I'm Robert Burr. I'm the Executive Director for the Glynn County Airport Commission, and I could probably answer some of the questions and reconfirm what Brad just said. The airport was looking to enhance the island and the experience of the island. If you remember, the terminal was basically a very nice terminal, but old and dated, and we actually thought it was a deterrent to the look and the aesthetics of the island and the thought of the island. So as we look to develop the properties from the properties previously leased to Rich Properties to the terminal complex to the FBO, the Airport Commission was very much consideration of something that was compatible. And they're representative, just like you, as a commission, to say what works well for meeting the goals of the Airport Commission and also the community. We're very excited that when we put this parcel out for requests for proposals, it wasn't basically on low values. We wanted to evaluate this as a compatible. Brad has already proven himself in his current facility how very gorgeous facility he built on one of the airport properties. So we're very glad we've been in partnership with Brad to make it happen. So, and he's exactly correct. We're taking a proactive role not only to have our tenants enhance their appearance, but also bring it to another level, including, of course, the tree canopy and bringing back that vegetation. So I think we're very much consistent. The Airport Commission is very much consistent of what the goals of this body goes, but also we're also consistent that builds something that's compatible with the use of the airport.
Any questions of the applicant? Thank you very much. Once we get a motion, we'll open it up for any comments from the public or questions to us. If you have any, looking for a motion, can you put the motions back up, please, sir?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve site plan SP 3124.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Well, we got a motion and a second. At this time, we'll open the floor for any comments that you'd like to make. Questions to us, please, sir.
Yes, Dave Olander, St. Simon's Island. And since the Airport Commission is represented here tonight, as well as the applicant, I want to know if the applicant, since they started the hotel and the new terminal, the power lines have been moved across to this side of the road, many of them. And I wanted to find out if part of the plan was to put all that power below ground as a part of this master development.
Thank you. Other comments?
I'm Fred Collins. I live on 11th Street, St. Simon's. I have a specific question for the commission. You want to put the site plan back up for me? In addition, I'm a board member of Bike Walk Golden Isles, which is our local pedestrian cycling advocacy coalition, and I'm the founder of one of the founders of the Golden Isles Chain Gang, our local cycling club. We have about 65 members. My question is there a plan, part of this application, particularly in light of the dust up over here at Jekyll Island lately? It was Jekyll Island, but it's still Glynn County. The builder at the cottages tore out the MUP, the multi-use path, which we have here over there. He tore it out, barricaded the path, and then barricaded his entrance at the edge of the road. That forced all the traffic on the MUP over on Jekyll out into Beachview Drive. And I'm told they're going to correct that in the next couple of weeks as they have to pave the road before they can build their first model home. But Mr. Brombacher did a great job, and we built the brick down there in preserving the integrity of the path.
and I compliment you on that. However, I asked the commission, is there a plan that is part of this application to preserve the integrity of the MUP and keep it in service during the construction of this project?
Thank you, sir. Other questions?
Yes, good evening. I'm Mary Helen Moses, and I'm here as a resident of St. Simons and also representing Mr. McCaskill and Ms. Friedman, who own the adjacent property. My questions are directed not so much to the public side of this, the street side, but the rear. And my question would be primarily, first of all, the excess parking and the parking across the back. If there is not a restaurant there, this is an excess number of parking places. And that parking, which is adjacent, there are parallel parking spaces at the top of that. We would ask that they be removed in the sense that they are not necessary. We've already been told it's an excess, and that is going to affect the residential property owners to the rear. And so we would ask that that be removed. Our other question is in the enlarged site plan that I don't need my magnifying glass to read, which was provided me by staff, there is still a grease trap on this site plan. And if there's not now?
No, ma'am, it would be right there. If you look where the pointer is, that's where the grease trap was in the previous.
Okay, so it has been removed since we spoke. Okay, thank you. And finally, again, I would be concerned about approving this if down the road, and virtually immediately, it appears, we're told by staff that there was going to be a proposal for rezoning to include a restaurant. And we would request that the Planning Commission defer any site plan approval in waiting for something like this, because it would be a problem for the residential landowners, the adjacent landowners. So with that in mind, we would request that you at least put the condition that no restaurant rezoning be proposed. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. We'll get those questions answered. Would you like to try to answer those questions, please, sir? The first one was about the power lines and where they're going to, any intent to go below ground?
It's Brad Bowman again. The power lines stay. The bike path will continue to be fully operational. We'll have a full fence along Demery Road with our construction entrance. We'll have one construction entrance to the north side with the gate back off the road, so you'll be able to pull in without blocking traffic. The bike paths will stay open fully the whole time that the project's going on, until we have to cut and do it at the end of the project, which would probably be anywhere from a 3 to 4 week maximum time that they might be closed. But at the same time, we'd make every effort to make them over the gravel. It wouldn't be closed. It would just be through the gravel. As far as the parking is concerned, if this building becomes all retail, we need all the parking. So that's why we've designed it to be an all retail building. We haven't deviated from that request.
I would like to say to you that I do understand that you own the property that is a little ways up, no? The outfitters?
These are airport properties on.
Well, let me rephrase it then. I do understand that you have in a structure, you have businesses there, and I see where, and I was never in agreement with the county having that a mainstay for our tourists to come through. When they changed Demery Road and they made Old Demery Road and then Demery Road, and however, I'm of the opinion that there has to be some sort of foliage there. Maybe not to, how can I say this, prevent your businesses from being seen, but where it makes that road attractive.
He's got a time.
I agree 100%. And That's the intent. We've tried to add some landscape buffers. Of course, with the power lines, we're limited with the type of trees that we can do. But we'll have, just like we've done down on Airport Plaza with the palm trees and the landscape that's irrigated and constantly maintained.
That it is. You get no argument from me. However, it is, for my opinion, is scarce. And I would like to, if, on that particular road, because of it's the airport area, and I think that the airport authority should address this, but we're the part of the county, that buffer should have more foliage and a little more talk about density in terms of landscaping.
I agree with that. This property is much wider than the other property, so we've got more of an opportunity to do that here.
Let me ask a question that came about from the parking. If I'm reading the plan right, with what you're proposing here, you have to have 71 places and you have 73, so you need those back there. Is that my understanding from reading this?
Yes. I mean, we've got 3
So if you were trying to put a restaurant in there, you would not have sufficient parking, because it takes a square foot for every, it takes one
Correct.
spot for every 70 square feet instead of one spot for every 200.
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine, but that's just another problem if you...
And then the intent on the back is, we designed it so we didn't touch any of the trees. There's some oaks and some buffer back there. We left it. I don't want to take any of the buffer of the foliage down there. I want to add to it and fill it in so they don't see us and we don't see them. So that's the intent on the back.
I'm just trying to get an answer to that question. If I read this,
That's a type A buffer back there in the back, right? And it's got certain standards that are expressed in our ordinance that you comply with. Correct.
Oh yeah, it's much more than what Rich CPAC did in the back. But I mean, we want to do it. I mean, we don't want to see the neighbors in the back. We want to be good neighbors. We always have been.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any questions about the motion? Any discussion? The motion was to approve the site plan SP 3124. All those in favor signify with a raise of hands. It's unanimous. Next item is SP 3147. Southern Soul. Consider site plan approval for the Southern Soul Restaurant and Love Golf Designs to increase parking and install a sidewalk. The site plan has also a proposed covered outdoor dining area for the Southern Soul Restaurant. Love Golf Design is located at 100 Brunswick Avenue at the corner of Brunswick Avenue and Circle Drive. Southern Soul is located at 20 Road at the corner of Demery Road and Brunswick Avenue. Partial ID 0402788 and 0402801. Larry Bryson and Larry Bryson Architect, agent for Southern Soul Land Company, LLC applicant. Southern Soul Land Company, LLC owner of 100 Brunswick Avenue. Quarantine 1 LLC owner of 2020 Demery Road.
Thank you. Casey Dagenhart, Glynn County Planner. This is a proposal for a new site plan to combine the Southern Soul Restaurant property with 100 Brunswick Avenue, also known as the Love Designs Building. Would you mind turning down the lights so they could see it? Thank you.
Consider because we have a new plan.
This is the front of the property. Southern Soul has recently leased the white building being circled right now by the mouse, and part of their site plan proposition is to construct a open air seating area right in between the two buildings. Here is a panoramic view of the side of the Southern Soul and looking down Brunswick Avenue to the Davis Love building. You can also see Circle Drive Alley, which is where the mouse is right now, which is where other proposed parking will be or is located. Here's a panoramic of the side of the two buildings taken adjacent to the parking area for the Davis Love Designs building. Southern Soul, you can see up in the front, right up here, and Circle Drive is to the left, behind that live oak. Here is a picture taken from Circle Drive, looking out onto Brunswick Avenue. These trees that you see are part of the site of 100 Brunswick Avenue. Here is the chain link fence that they have to block off the view of the parking area, the grass parking area internal to that site. And here's the entrance to the warehouse, and it's also used as an entrance to that grassy parking area that's inside the building behind the chain link fence. Here is the proposed site plan. As you can see, they have combined parking areas. They have proposed the new parking lot to be entered off of Circle Drive, and they also have a bunch of parking spaces along Circle Drive Alley, and you can see in the middle of the two buildings the proposed covered area. Here is the proposed elevation. This is the rear elevation. The new rented area is on the left. The white building, that's on the right, is the primary Southern Soul restaurant. That looks like stripes would be a portion of the new covered seating area. And here is the right elevation looking from the gas station next door towards Brunswick Avenue. And the lower one is the front elevation, looking at the former package store on the right, and in the middle, the proposed new covered seating area or eating area. Southern Soul would like you to consider a site plan approval, but they have actually resubmitted today for a new site plan after they met with several of the neighborhood residents. And they have a new site plan they believe will work better for the neighborhood and would work better for them as well. So they have actually submitted to us a new site plan along with a tree plan that would potentially comply with the tree canopy ordinance. We have not had a chance to put it through the reviews yet, but I wanted to, or the applicant wanted to be able to show you all that they have worked with the residents of the neighborhood to come up with an agreement that they believed would work out for everyone.
Mr. Chairman, this needs to get deferred to next meeting.
Who, in fact, is giving you this information?
Easy now. We'll wait till we get there.
Well, to keep talking like this without having the correct information is embarrassing to the commission.
Sir, you're out of order. Please, sir.
Is it time to ask questions? Or?
No, I don't know if they finished with the presentation or not.
So if staff would like to request that you defer
Thank you.
the review of the site plan to the next Islands Planning Commission meeting to have time for staff to review the site plan, the newly submitted site plan and the newly submitted tree plan.
And
Let me
make a
ask,
motion
let me
to
ask a
refer.
question.
Oh,
Is there an opportunity maybe to ask some of these questions now? You want to defer them all and then
First.
ask them
Staff
later?
hasn't-
Okay, that's fine. The questions I had would not have anything to do with what staff's going to do, but that's fine. We have a motion to defer. Is there one made? Got a motion by Mr. Watson to defer. A second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Ward.
to the next meeting,
To defer till our January meeting.
January 19th.
Applicant, you understand what we're doing?
Okay.
Okay? We have a motion to defer. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of deferring signify with a raise of hands. Unanimous. Thank you. I'm sorry, I was too slow. Come on, that's not getting any.
Okay, all right, this is last meeting, be nice. Of the year.
Okay, that is deferred till the to the January 19th meeting, or our next meeting in January. At which time I presume there'll be a new plan.
Apparently so.
We have the next item on the agenda is approval of the revised meeting calendar. You don't have a copy of that on your screen there, do you?
No, sir.
Okay. We all got a copy of it. Anybody have any questions about the Island Planning Commission schedules?
No.
Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Got a motion to approve, a second by Ms. Ward. All those in favor signify with a raise of hands.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Okay.
Next item is our nominating committee. Mr. Willis?
Nominating committee would like to place before you the nominations of Preston Kirkendall as chairman and Desiree Watson as vice chairman.
Janet Levin is secretary.
Janet Levin is the secretary of the commission.
Okay. At this time, we'll open the floor. Let's, I guess, go from top to bottom in case there's, doesn't mention me.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a substitute motion to nominate the following officers for the year 2016. Chairman Karen Ward, Vice Chairman Desiree Watson, and Secretary Janet Lovett.
I second it.
All right, we have two motions on the floor. The nominating committee made a motion, and we now have Janet Loving is there, let's vote that direction then. Janet Loving for secretary, is there any nomination for that position? All those in favor of the election of Janet for secretary signify with a raise of hands. I think the other motion was the same for the vice president, Ms. Watson.
Yes.
Vice chair.
Vice chair, Ms. Watson. All those in favor of that signify with a raise of hands. It's unanimous. The next is a motion for either Ms. Ward or Mr. Kirkendall to be chairman. So I guess we'll vote on that. All those in favor of Ms. Ward, please raise your hands. 4. All those in Mr. Kirkendall, raise your hands. 4 to 2. I said abstain from voting. Abstain from voting. That's what y'all want. That's what you get. I abstain from voting. That's fine. Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 19th. Is there any other motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. So moved.